Far north of the capital city of Guyana, on the lavish estate of the Queen's head adviser, the plague had begun to take its toll. The dimly lit master bedroom in the manor was filled with an atmosphere of loss and loneliness. Lord Lindar Mobius stared at his wife Eleonora's lifeless body as it lay on their bed. He feared to turn around because he knew his daughter Tavia's corpse was behind him on a cot where she had lain, treated in the same room as her mother. With all the knowledge of magic he had, why could he not have prevented this? The death of his wife and daughter, lost to the plague, was the result of a slow search for a cure. The epidemic had swept through the land like a strong wind and had infected many elves just like his family. He searched his mind for someone to direct his fury towards. Queen Mary should have heeded his warnings. She had not acted swiftly enough. All he wanted to do was cradle his wife's head in his arms. He was shaking with rage at the loss of his loved ones. He shouldn't even be in this room, but if he died of the plague, at least they would be together again. A sound behind Mobius alerted him that someone had entered the room. He turned to see an older elf in a medical uniform. The Queen's royal doctor, Mobius quickly realized. He looked over at him with a mournful yet angry face. He had almost forgotten that he had summoned the doctor, tasked with finding a cure. "You call, Lord Mobius?" the doctor asked in a calm, professional manner, belying his inner fears. It did not pay to cross Lindar Mobius. "Greetings, doctor." Mobius turned to face the doctor. "I do believe that you told me that you had a cure for this plague. Yet here my wife and daughter lie dead before me, because they have not been given said cure. Care to explain?" Mobius's voice was cold and restrained. "I tried my best, sir." The doctor shifted uncomfortably where he stood. "Based on their symptoms, I was sure your wife and daughter had 2 more weeks before the plague would take them. If I had known they were on death's door, I would have pushed my colleagues harder to complete the potion. But it's still being tested." Mobius ran his fingers through his long, pale blonde hair, a gesture of restraint that he was attempting to maintain. He advanced slowly towards the doctor. He placed the palms of his hands together, fingers touching beneath his chin. Mobius looked as if he were praying, but he was building energy for a spell. He could see the doctor's ghostly pale skin crawling with fear, their eyes locked. He knew the doctor suspected what was about to happen to him. However, the reality would be far worse. "That is unacceptable, doctor," Mobius said ominously. "Can you imagine the agony of losing your entire family, watching them suffer as they cling to life, just to witness their last breath as you stand idly by, unable to intervene?" He quickly moved his hands from beneath his chin and barked a command. A ball of red-hot energy flew from his hands to the doctor. The doctor barely had time to take a step back, so quick was the attack. As soon as the ball of energy hit the doctor, he fell to the floor, screaming in agony. His flesh started to turn bright red as his body temperature rose rapidly. Within seconds, the flesh began to peel away from his bones. As his bones became exposed to the energy, the doctor's screams ceased, and the bones charred and crumbled. This type of punishment was nothing Mobius hadn't done before. Failure begets death. The charred remains would be disposed of by a trusted servant. No one would dare ask him about the missing doctor or the screams from this room. It had been quite a while since he had the opportunity to exercise his powers to that extent. It felt good to feel the power again. What he saw before him was a reassurance that he was still master of demonic magic. Demonic magic was forbidden, so he liked to keep people ignorant. Looking at the doctor's blackened and crumbling bones satisfied Mobius. He had recently returned from a long journey where he had learned this spell, though some might refer to it as a curse instead. It worked very well, he mused. Mobius saw one of his servants appear in the doorway. A ragged-looking maid stood quietly at the door as she waited for Mobius to acknowledge her presence. She had seen the remains of the doctor lying on the floor, but knew better than to say anything or look directly at Mobius. Any lack of obedience would be met by punishment. Of that the servants could be sure. "This is not a good time. I wish to be alone," said Mobius angrily. The maid curtsied and handed him a note with a trembling hand. "I'm sorry, master," she stuttered, fearing her master would turn his rage towards her. "But the person who left this note said it was urgent." Mobius snatched the note from the maid with a glare and dismissed the woman with a wave of his hand. The maid curtsied again and left the room quickly. Mobius knew that most of his servants meant him no harm or disrespect, but he had no patience tonight. This night the life he once knew had ended. The only two people in the world that he loved were gone. He was filled with anger and grief as he wandered over to sit in a chair in the corner of the room. He couldn't bring himself to leave his family's side. Looking down at the note, he noticed that the parchment was slightly different than what was commonly used in Terra. This suggested the note possibly came from another continent. Interesting, he thought. The quality of the parchment suggested a noble class, but the grammar was definitely that of a commoner. A servant stealing the master's parchment. Disgusting behavior, he thought as he sneered. After quickly skimming the note and seeing words of interest, he thought he should read it more carefully. To Lindar Mobius, head advisor to Queen Mary. You got no idea who I am, but I know all about you and who you will become someday. By the time you has got this note, it will be shortly after the death of your wife and babe. I'm right grieved to you and whatever family you got left. I is writing to you 'cause I also lost family. But we found a solution to our problems, but need your help. You have 1 year to obtain a thing called the Cube of Destiny. Once you got it, my master will learn you to reverse the sands of time and bring back your wife and babe. Don't tell anyone about this. They will not believe you, or they will try to stop you. Burn this note. A friend. Mobius put down the note on the table and pondered what to do. Morning came and Mobius was still deep in thought. This was too serious a topic to postpone for sleep. Sleep would likely bring nightmares of his loved ones anyway. He had heard the legends of the Cube of Destiny, but had not actually believed it existed. According to the legend, the elves used to be a somewhat different race of beings that had fought against a great evil 6,000 years ago with the help of 7 other races. Once that evil had been vanquished, each race had taken a piece of the great Cube of Destiny to help their civilizations grow. With the cube, one could see everything, the past and all possible futures. The part that interested Mobius the most was the infinite power the cube granted the user, as well as the potential to reconnect the cubes. The cube, if it indeed existed, should give Mobius the power to resurrect his wife and daughter and rule Guyana as emperor. The queen would not be able to stop him. On the other hand, the note could be the ravings of a madman. Still, how did he know of the deaths? It had been mere hours after when the letter arrived. Moreover, what did he mean by knowing what Mobius would become? This person spoke as if he knew time magic. Such magic was considered forbidden and worse than Mobius's demonic magic. One simply did not mess with time. The possibility the cube existed was too intriguing to ignore. If the man from the note turned out to be using him, Mobius would kill him in the most torturous way when the time came. There was only one option. He must find the Cube of Destiny. This would mean research, going through all the documents in the capital's library. His only obstacle would be the Queen and her loyal captain of investigation, Aileen. Anything Mobius did that might appear to threaten the Queen or the country, Aileen would pick up on and immediately try to stop him. She neither liked nor trusted Mobius, and the feeling was mutual. He would have to find a way to distract Aileen and punish the Queen for her failure to cure the plague. He had recently read about a spell that might help him accomplish just that. The spell would cause mass chaos and possibly numerous deaths. But that was a price he was more than willing to pay. He had to have that cube.